Well, I'm going to take us to Asia. A lot of talk about how Americans and Europeans looked at the Iran protests, but I was curious of what was being said in Asia, and particularly those two Asian giants. We'll start with India, the Hindustan Times. This is a newspaper, Ami, that is supportive of the Congress Party, the opposition in India. Here's its editorial on Iran, which, among other things, says why India should care so much about what happens in Iran, what's there. We talked about it, I think, a week or two ago. The issue of Afghanistan. India is helping to build a port on the Arabian Sea to be able to get its goods into Afghanistan and Central Asia. India also imports a lot of oil from Iran, so a very practical, transactional, and really geographical relationship with Iran that drives India's interest in the country. India not so supportive of things that would rock that boat.
So we haven't seen like Narendra Modi say, like we've seen support from the Prime Minister and from Donald Trump. He hasn't gone out and said, you know, we support the protesters, right?
Very careful about their relationship with Iran and not at all taking the Israeli position or the U.S. position, even on the Iran nuclear deal. That relationship, very, very strategically important for India. One of many reasons why it's so hard for Israel and the United States to isolate Iran on the international stage. But now let's look at China, the other Asian giant. We'll look at a newspaper called the Global Times, and for those who don't recognize it, this is a newspaper that often reflects the thinking of the Chinese establishment. It's published in English, it has a website, its editorials are often closely watched to read between the lines and see what the Chinese government is thinking. Here's what its take was on the Iran protests in a fascinating editorial. Viewers can read the quote on the screen. The Chinese, not big fans of what they call color revolutions, popular protests, for obvious reasons. We all remember what happened in 1989 in Tiananmen Square. The Chinese not so enthusiastic about that coming to their territory again. But two other messages in this editorial that I found interesting. Number one, the United States is meddling in Iran's internal affairs, and Washington shouldn't do so. China trying to score some points against the United States, increase its soft power. And the other part, and I almost put this quote on the screen, a very veiled warning to Iran. In the second to last paragraph of the editorial, it says, Iran supports Shia groups all around the Middle East. Iran wasn't part of the Islamic world until the Arab conquest of the 7th century. If Iran's intervention in Palestine, Syria, and Yemen has cost it dearly, it will be interesting to see if Iran takes itself out of Middle East geopolitics. Ami, a very veiled warning from the Chinese telling the Iranians, we're not so happy about your role in the Middle East.